Guys, today we're going to talk about volume. Up until now, we've been talking about area. All of Unit 6 was area of a circle, area of a triangle, rectangle, trapezoid. And then the last couple days, or yesterday specifically, we've been talking about the surface area of a shape. So it'd be like taking this three-dimensional shape and covering it like this, adding this to all the areas of the sides. But today we're going to talk about volume. Volume is more filling it up, like what's on the inside. So let's get going. So hopefully you've already watched the video on the formula chart and you filled all that in. That's kind of a good way to get started on this. But in your notes, 7.3, it says the volume of a rectangular prism, which, by the way, today we're focusing on rectangular prisms. They're probably the easiest. And so let's get going again. So again, how much it can be filled, and then it gives you the formula. And I want you to note again that it says volume equals a capital B. Capital B means area of the base. It's going to be either the area of a triangle, a rectangle, a square. So today, because we're doing rectangular prisms, it's always going to be a rectangle and or a square. So super easy. When you at some point, and you might have already learned this back when you were in elementary school, another formula for this, and we'll relate the two together, was length times width times height. So I don't know, some of you, if we were in class, I'd ask you to raise your hand if you've seen that before. But we're basically just going to be multiplying three numbers together, okay? So pretty easy. Let's move on. So this is the first time, though, that we're talking about the area of the base. And so, and also the volume formula. So even though it's going to seem unimportant, it is important for future shapes that are more difficult to do, that we always start with the formula. So again, the formula is V equals a capital B times H. Now, back in the day on your formula chart, it used to say length times width times height. But the formula chart and the formulas have changed over the years. And so I don't necessarily care for the changes, because I always feel like we have to work backwards to the original formulas just for you to understand what's going on. So big B, as we mentioned, is the area of the base. So let's shade in the base. I'm going to pick the top and the bottom. And so I want you to go ahead and pick the top and the bottom too. And I'm going to actually peel off the bottom so that you can see, even though it looks like a square, it's not. It's a rectangle. It's 4 by 5. So big B is the area of the base. I'm going to circle it up here again, area of the base. So let's find the area of that rectangle. First off, the formula for big B is length times width, or base times height. So I'm going to go ahead and write base times height. And then this H here is the actual height of the entire shape. Now, again, it gets confusing because we have two H's here. And I know it's confusing. That's why one of the things I don't like about this new formula. Now, just for the sake of it not having two H's, we're just going to say, instead of base times height, let's just say length times width times the height. All right, that looks a little bit more comfortable. So we're going to look for the length and the width of the base, which is 4 and 5, and then the height of it, which is of the entire shape, which is 10. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 10 is 200. And it's meters, and we're going to say cubed. So let's talk about the cubed. Volume is filling up. It's not covering with something two-dimensional. It's filling it up with something three-dimensional. That's why I like to use this little box to talk about volume, because it's already kind of filled up with dice. And so let's say that these dice were 1-inch cubes. They're not, but let's pretend. And so they're three-dimensional. If this box filled, if I could fill 1,000 of them in here, that would be 1,000 inches cubed, or to the power of 3. The power of 3 means it's three-dimensional. So when I finish a volume question, I always just put a little 3 up at the top. Again, you could actually go back to the idea of length times width times height. That's 3 dimensions. All right? Area, 2 dimensions. Volume, 3 dimensions. Let's look at the next one. This is a cube. So a cube, what you know about a cube, like a dice, is that all the sides are the same. So it really doesn't matter which side you pick for the bases. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the top and the bottom again. All right, and I'm going to write the formula. V equals big B H. So if you look at the bottom of this shape, it's a square now. So the big B, remember, is the length and the width, and then we always have the height. So these numbers are 5 times 5 times 5, which is 125. And because it's inches, we're going to say inches cubed. Now, again, I have to teach you the mechanics of the formula, but when it comes to rectangular prisms and cubes, these are the only ones it works with, by the way. You can just go length times width times height, all right? Or whatever the area of the base is, and then fill it up. That's another thing I like to think about when I think about volume. It's kind of like finding the area of this base, and then you're filling it up with the area of that base. The filling up is the height. So again, just different ways to think about it. Let's look at the next one. Again, this one's a little bit trickier because we have some fractions, but they're kind of easy fractions to convert. And since we have to multiply, I'm going to go ahead and convert them to decimals because that's going to make this a lot easier. So the 7.5 would be what? That's correct, 7.5. And the 2.5, we're going to make it 2.5. So again, I'm going to pick a side to be my bases. Again, we could pick different sides, but to be all on the same page, let's pick the same sides. So I'm going to go ahead and pick, I think this time I'm going to pick this side and this side. They're parallel to each other. All right. So I need to find the area of this shape that's 4 and 2.5. Now, if you remember correctly, it's just base times height. So again, I'm going to go ahead and put the formula down. And the new formula, which again is just length times width times height. So let's find the area of the base. It is 2.5 times 4, which ends up being 10. So big B is 10. Up. And then, well, let me just go ahead and fill this in. We have 4 times 7, 2.5. 2.5 times 7.5. Having some technical difficulties, I apologize. We already did the 2.5 times 4, which is 10. And then 10 times 7.5 is 75 inches cubed. Again, with the volume of a rectangular prism or a cube, it really doesn't matter the order that you multiply those three numbers in. All right, let's look at the next one. The next one is a word problem. Whoa. The next one is a word problem. So I'm going to draw the picture as I go. I have a sandbox that's shaped like a rectangular prism. Now, when I was in middle school, I learned how to make these prisms and I thought it was so cool. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like. So I want everyone somewhere on your paper to write a rectangle. And then I want you to write a rectangle that's kind of touching it on the corners, just like that. They're overlapping just a little bit. And then we're going to just match all the corners up. Now, if you can't do this, if this is awkward for you, don't worry about it. But I just thought I'd show it to you because it's pretty cool. All right, I'm going to match up those corners, those corners, those corners, those corners, and I've just created a rectangular prism. And I used to draw these all over my spiral and stuff when I was in middle school. Yes, I know. It's crazy. So it says, I have a sandbox that's shaped like a rectangular prism. The volume of the sandbox is 300 centimeters squared. If the area of the base, big B, is 20, what is the height? Okay, this is actually pretty easy. Probably the easiest problem on here, but it's going to trip you all up because this is a work backwards problem. And this is emphasizes why you need to start with the formula. So I'm going to write the formula and then I'm going to plug in the numbers they gave me. They gave me the volume already. So I don't have to find the volume. They gave it to me. And they gave me big B. So I'm going to fill that in. And they want me to find H. So this now is just a one-step equation. I'm going to divide both sides by 20. H equals, all right, do you remember, if you remember some things about dividing, we can knock those zeros out. I could do a division problem for you, but I'm just going to go ahead and tell you it's 15. So the height is 15, and it's 15 centimeters because it's just the one dimension, the height. We're not talking about volume. It gave us the volume, and it wanted us to find the height. All right, good luck with the assignment. Please ask questions if you're struggling. Follow the notes. That's why you wrote them out, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.